right, then it's time for us to take our parenting conversation. And we have with us Bunmi Okesola. Now, she is an expert when it comes to speaking on issues like what we started discussing last week. And it was all about preventing sexual abuse in children. Now, there are some statistics that, some alarming statistics that talk about how it's more close family members or people in your immediate environment that are most trusted that you need to really pay attention to, especially when it comes to your children. Now, no one is pointing fingers at your family members, but the truth is paying extra attention to the interactions between your children and your family members is extremely key at this point. We have Bunmi back with us this morning, Bunmi Okesola. And it is a delicate topic to begin discussing at any point in time, but it is one that has to happen.
Definitely.
Now, we've come from the parents' angle last week, who they need to, look out for. But now you've decided that today we should talk about how the predators sort of look out for their prey. So I'm not sure how you want to begin this conversation. There must be a story behind this, how you want to begin.
Okay. Thank you very much, Titi, and it's so good to be back. So I felt we should go in this way because I realized that there is a system, predators or perpetrators, as we'll call them, used to groom children or prepare children for abuse. And I believe that when parents are aware of this information, they know the signs to look out for in people, it makes it easier to be able to prevent abuse, and this system is it's a full-blown system that predators usually use. They are patient enough to look for their victims. They are patient enough to go through the process of preparing the child, such that when it comes to the point of abuse, the child doesn't notice, and they don't groom the child alone. They also groom the family as well, or people who are connected to the child, such that there is no suspicions, they are not easily identified. And they do it in such a subtle way that if we are not aware, it's so easy to miss it. And I've worked with children a lot of times, and you see that the system, the process is similar again and again. I went through some form of abuse as a child, and looking back today, I can tick practically all the boxes and see how this process went on. So that's why I believe that it's really important, especially in times like that.
Can you give a hypothetical scenario of a particular child and the family situation he or she were in when abuse eventually occurred?
Okay, so one thing I must highlight here is that abusers can be anybody. I know I said that last week. And usually, according to statistics, it says 90% are people who are close to the family. So you find them in the home, you find them as caregivers, you find them as that loving uncle who is always, picking on a particular child, treating a child in a special way. And most of the times you see them isolating the child. They pick on a particular vulnerability of that child, and they begin to prey on that vulnerability and making the child see them as special. So you can see in a family, maybe there is one of the children who is sickly, or maybe one that doesn't do well so much, or there is this quiet one within the family, or there is this one that is just, an uncle comes and he picks on this one as, oh, my favorite girl, and you keep hearing those kind of flatteries, those kind of expression to this particular child. In those situations, that is where, I'm not saying you suspect everybody, right? I'm not saying that you become paranoid, but I'm just saying that there are specific signs you can look out for. And I would really want us to zero into those specific signs and how you can identify them in your child. I think one of the major parts we didn't talk about last week was the part of knowing your child. Because one thing that helps you know when your child is being abused or something is going wrong is that you have established that communication with your child, that safe space where your child can connect with you and communicate with you at every point for you to know what's going on.
So as children get older, their methods and modes of communication with their parents evolves. It doesn't exactly change, but it does change, but it grows or reduces depending on the personality of the child. We've talked about so many different aspects of this on the parenting segment over the years. So how do parents begin to identify when a situation is completely outside the box? So for instance, you have a child going from infancy to toddler to, young child, then to young, to tween, teenager, then eventually adulthood. So between the tween ages, where communication is supposed to be strongest between parents, what should they look out for?
Okay, so at that point, especially between the tween and the teen age, because mind you, relationships is built over time, right? Yeah. And so you want to keep that communication line open such that at that point, you are basically, it's not the point where you're the disciplinarian, where you're shouting at the child. You are connecting with the child such that your child sees you as a safe space. I know one of the reasons why it was difficult for me to open up when I was going through this abuse was the fact that I didn't have that safe space with my parents. We didn't have certain discussions. So certain discussions felt like a taboo, especially when it comes to sex education. So it was difficult for me to tell my parents that, I was experiencing puberty, So those are the kind of conversations. You start having those conversations from when they're really young, and then you can build on it as they grow, such that if anything happens, you're answering your child's question. So no question is stupid. Do you understand? I believe that's where it starts from, that you can connect enough. I was talking with a parent, and she was telling me how a child was able to open up to her when an abuse started, because she had created that safe space. They had had series of conversation on sex education. They have had series of conversation about puberty, who the abusers are. And it was just easy for the child to come to say that, Mommy, that thing you told me about, this person is doing, this person is touching me in a way I don't like.
So there is that worry that some adults have that if they introduce certain things to a child's mind or even a child's vocabulary, that the child would use them haphazardly and eventually, get people in trouble for no reason whatsoever. Now, there have been situations where children are upset or angry at a particular adult or a particular person, or they just don't like a particular person, and just decide to get that person in trouble. There has been a worry of some parents. Now, we're not trying to say that these children are lying. We're just trying to say that sometimes kids overexpand on, or maybe stretch the truth. Let's put it that way. What exactly do you believe is the best option for any parent at that point?
Okay, so one thing I want to say is that know your child.
Okay.
Such that you know what your child can do and what your child cannot do. And to a large extent, you want to put yourself in a position where you believe your child. And that starts from a place of building trust and relationship over time. Now, I know, like you said, I know that people think most of the time children exaggerate. But there is a particular age where that stops. And there is a particular period where you begin to see that this is going overboard because you really know your child. Now, if you don't believe your child, I've had a series of situations where children completely go off their family because there was a situation where they were not believed by their parents. So to a large extent, we will say in child protection that believe the child. Believe the child and investigate while you are investigating. You don't want to put a child in a situation where the child doesn't open up or the child closes up completely about real issues that you really want to know about. Because these are some of the things that the perpetrators prey on. The fact that they create a situation where it is hard to believe your own child. They build trust so much, they connect with the family or people who are related with the child so much that it's hard, they make it difficult for you to believe that they can actually prey on your child.
I've actually heard of a particular situation, I'm going to have to wrap up with this one though, where a particular girl had told her mother about her mother's boyfriend who was apparently abusing her, and the mother didn't believe her. And every time the man was in the building, in the house with her, she had to find somewhere to hide. Now, obviously, there's never enough time to talk about these things, but we'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this particular matter. Thank you so much for joining us.